What he's talking about is money coming into existence and going directly into the economy rather than going to bankers who then lend it into the economy. So it's removing this massive debt slavery aspect we have right now that is totally unnecessary. And if this is brand new to you, you need to realize there are millions and millions of people on the grassroots right that understand that this needs to be fixed. And this has been understood for a while. There were people that understood this very, very clearly and tried to warn America about it. There were congressmen that tried to warn America about it in 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act came into being. This is a battle that has waged actually throughout American history at different times. There were presidents who fought the bankers. Andrew Jackson fought the bankers. Thomas Jefferson warned us against bankers. And they were basically all saying the same thing. Don't give your economy over to bankers. In other words, don't let bankers be the ones who bring money into existence and print the currency. And that's what we allowed in 1913. And so really, when we're fixing this, we're following the advice of the Thomas Jeffersons and the Andrew Jacksons and all the people throughout our history and the millions of people today that know that we need to change this system because it is inherently parasitic. So if this is new to you, just understand that there are many millions of people on the grassroots right today, and there were many, many people throughout American history, including presidents, founding fathers, etc., that understood the basics of this issue, and this updated American Constitution here fixes that problem and makes it so that it can never be a problem again. So that we don't have this dynamic where it's not producing anything for the economy. They're just collecting money off of nothing.
Yeah, and then they bait people into debt. And then they have debt collectors you appropriate from people.
Yes.
So let's destroy that whole rude economy.
And this will have it's hard to describe to people what a massively positive impact this will have on the economy.
Well, you'll be able to run a household on one income.
Yes. Yep. A lot of this financial pressure that people feel is artificially created by this dynamic that Kurt is talking about here. I think the audience can get the point here, Kurt, that this is going to make everybody's life dramatically easier. And just to mention, there's a couple of videos, like there's one called The Money Masters. Is a video series that's great to watch. It might be on YouTube. Just if this is brand new to you, it kind of helps you understand some of the background.
You are being screwed every day by that. Everything you think about the financial and political sector, you can't put it into words like you can't put morality or Western civilization or conservatism or traditionalism into words, but you know it, right? Well, the same thing is with everything wrong with our society. When I talk about pseudoscience and numeracy, if I explain to you what's been done to you, you'll start hanging people tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. But it's great that you understand it, Kurt. You understand it well enough to write down how to fix it.
Yeah, they're going to kill me for it.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen, Kurt. I know you're just being funny, but it is. I mean, let's not gloss over this. This is dangerous to a lot of people who are making a lot of money by being parasites, but it is within our power to end it.
Trillions every year. Trillions.
What we're talking about here would have a tremendous, tremendous positive impact on everybody that's not like a banker or an elite scumbag.
So let's talk about those two things. If we took all that dead capital we call Washington, D.C., and we reallocated it to different cities in different states, in other words, if everybody wasn't trying to compete for control of the federal dollars, but instead we had a lot of states working locally, and people had their education problem changed, their financial problem was changed. If those two things happened, what would happen would be the greatest reallocation of capital since the Romans had their restructuring.
Wow.
So it's when you brought up earlier, it's going to change. No, people have no idea. This is like the church had 50% of Europe's capital dead
in the Middle Ages.
Right. And so what could we do? I mean, what do you think they had to reclose the monasteries for? And so we get the capital back in motion. And so look what happened. Well, it's the same thing now is that we have a lot of dead capital. All the money in the country is around Washington, it's around New York City where they print the money, and it's around LA where they print the propaganda. Well, if you make it so you can't propaganda lie anymore, there's no money to be made in usury, except other than investment, and that the government's been devolved for the states, that capital is reallocated.
Yes.
We can start generating human capital again. Now, people don't think of it this way, but children are human capital. I mean, they're a kind of capital, a kind of production, and they're expensive. And if you suck all the money out of middle-class families.
Yes. So to just give a quick example, imagine if the payments you had to make for your mortgage and your car were cut in half or just drastically reduced from what they are now. Imagine you could spend that on your kids, on having kids. People would feel like they could afford kids, and people would feel like they could afford having a one-income home and the mother staying home with the kids. And there would be more spending money to spend on other things instead of just sending it to bankers who are just sitting there really producing nothing.
Well, most of the big cities are bankrupt, right? So if we make those their own city states, they can run their crazy little programs as long as they want, but they can't take the rest of the people down with them.
Yes, if they want to do that. And that's one of the things you have in the Constitution as well, and I don't want to get off track, but where a lot of these cities that are just crazy leftist cities that want to do this stuff, they basically become city-states and they can't impose their will on the rest of the country.
They have no power outside of their borders.
Yes, which is fantastic.
And that's what we want, right? I mean, that's the vehicle. The vehicle by which we've been undermined is actually immigration. We would have won. We won nature versus nurture. We won gender differences. And right now we're winning racial differences. And we're certainly going to win IQ and class differences.
You're talking about scientifically, the science that's coming out is completely destroying the left on all of this.
So the only reason they have anything is because they promised us they wouldn't use the 65 Immigration Act to do this, and they did.
Yep.
Well, under proprietarian law and under the Constitution, you're liable for that. We're coming after you.
And what Kurt's talking about here, if there's any audience that is new, is that immigrants, non-whites, vote more than 2-to-1 left. And so it's not that they have won. It's not that the left is winning the argument or winning over the historical European peoples, because most white people vote right wing. It's that they're just importing voters. And under proprietarian law, they are liable for that because that is imposing a cost. And it's allowing them to put lies into the public and all of this, which can also be prosecuted.
So, the Jews used a great tactic after the war, which is to go after and recollect from the Nazis. What do you think we're going to do after this civil war? We're to go recollect from those leftists.
Yes. Restitution.
Right. Yeah. So that's what
great.
we're scared about.
That is great. I mean, this is why I say, folks, you guys know me. I'm pretty good at marketing and getting the word out and creating catchy phrases and stuff like that. But I am not exaggerating when I say I get so excited reading this and talking about this and seeing what's in this Constitution, because this is what needs to happen. This is the restoration of the Western way, the Western success strategy, and our enemies will not be able to get away with what they used to be able to get away with because we have such a solid foundation here. So, Kurt,
moral license.
Yes.
It's a moral license, a set of demands, a means of insurrection or demands, and a means of transition. So it's what I set out to produce. And, you're not going to figure it out in 5 minutes in a comic book, although I bet one of our guys will eventually do that.
People get pretty good at it, yes.
But yes. In all seriousness, I put a lot of work into this. It will work. The real problem for Western man is, what are we? Because we do it by tradition. We didn't have our Bible written down, so to speak.
Yes, we did it by instinct.
Right, we do it by tradition, instinct, inheritance. We don't have the white law, right?
Yep.
Like the Quran, right? But now we do.
Yes, this is it. I was just going to go through a quick list of a couple of the policies that I think people would like that we didn't touch on. And then you can comment if you want, but I think that people would like to hear this.
Sure.
Because this is more of the stuff that's really going to directly affect them. We talked about the financial aspect, really fixing that. And we talked about how norms and social policy and how the government is structured is really going to be at the state level. And we're not going to have this big, huge federal government bureaucracy. That's going to make people very happy. And then just some simple stuff. No one from outside has the right of refuge, asylum, or immigration.
No.
Fixing the immigration issue.
The natural law, they can't have any right.
Yes. Voting, what you call in the Constitution peerage, I believe, is limited to, everybody doesn't get a vote. It's limited to certain types of people who are much less likely to want to be parasites. We'll put it that way.
You have to demonstrate competence before you can influence others.
Yes.
Because all politics is violence, force. So if you can't demonstrate that you're worthy of it, then why should we give you any influence? I mean, if you're protected under natural law and you're given all these benefits and you're not able to demonstrate that you have ability to contribute instead, then why should you have opinions?
Yes. Why should you have a say over somebody else?